running a little bit behind in getting everything hooked up today, but I think we are just about ready. Let me make sure this is all shared and all that kind of stuff. Oh. Great.
Yeah.
There we go. Now we're ready.
Looks good.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody.
All right.
Here we go.
So, welcome to online class for today, which is April the 15th.
2020.
In the middle of Coronaville, Corona land. Did you see the news today that Tennessee governor is recommending schools are closed for the rest of the year?
I did. We heard that.
Yeah. I guess did Tullahoma announce that is specifically going to happen here? Or
I mean, my kids think it is.
Yeah, I can think. I think that's probably right. Yeah. My kids. I mean, I didn't hear Deacon shout hallelujah today, so I mean, he loves his friends and he loves his teacher, Miss Perry.
Yeah,
loves
he does.
you.
Yeah, they love their teachers.
But he also is fine not going to school. I mean, that's the way he is in the kindergarten right now. Let's see. We also have some stuff about today coming out for just. What was it? It was, I think soccer. I think state soccer is canceled for the rest of
the spring sports.
The spring
I heard
too.
Spring sports are canceled.
So lots of different things going on. Hey, we're going to be teaching from John chapter 21 today. All right, is what we're going to be working on. We've been working through the Gospel of John in our sermons on Sundays and on in our class time for the last. We worked our Sunday morning class time through the beginning of the year, and then we've been doing that on Wednesdays for the last several weeks. So
one more John tonight and one more on Sunday, right?
That's correct. Yeah, that's what we're going to do, and then we'll move into some other stuff next week. So this, if you're new to us, I mean, my name is Stephen Hovatter, and
I'm Rylan.
I'm the preaching and outreach minister at Cedar Lane, and Rylan is my good friend, and
I teach 5th grade on Wednesday nights.
Yeah, and you're deacon too.
Oh, well, sure.
And a worship leader. You want to sing a song?
Sometimes.
You want to sing a song?
No.
Okay.
When the moon hits your eye like a big moon.
Yeah, it wasn't exactly what I had in mind, but you never know. I mean, you never know what's live TV. Everybody.
You asked.
Yeah, I did ask. I've exactly asked for that. So, at any rate, we're going to be picking up here in John chapter 21. John chapter 21. We should let's type this up here so people that come in a minute late or so will easily be able to find
people
themselves.
Like us. Huh? I said people like us.
You did say that.
Come a minute
turkey.
Late.
All right, here we go. All right, here we go. We're going to put that right there. Hey, I got an announcement before we start, or a couple of things that I would like to announce. First of all, if you are still interested in our spring retreat, which is a digital retreat, online retreat, that you're more than welcome to be a part of that. And if you're on Facebook, there's a Facebook group that I would gladly invite you to. You can join that way. Or if you want to participate by email, we'll post this materials online, show you where they are that way as well. So all you got to do is send me a message, or send the church Facebook message, or send me personally a message at stephenhovatter at gmail.com. Or you can email cedarlanechurch at gmail.com, either one of those. And we will get you signed up, and we'll let that be a part of, we'll love you free to be a part of it. It's been a good bit of work, like producing this stuff, but I'm really excited about it. I think for those
Took
of you
all
that
of our lights.
So. I did. We just have like the regular room lights in here tonight.
This is making it worse.
Is that making it worse?
It looks weird.
I don't know that made a big difference.
No, it didn't do anything.
Didn't seem to make a huge change.
Switch right there. I don't know. I don't know, y'all.
At any rate, we're
slumming it tonight.
Yeah. So you're right. I had the lights over, filmed that stuff at the church building, and so Karen, I thought I had you signed up. I'll make sure Karen Bratton says she's wants to make sure be a part of that retreat. I'll get you in there, okay? I'll make sure tonight when I get off. All right. And you'll receive those materials. We'll have some stuff posted first thing tomorrow morning. And the way it works, there's 2 sessions worth a day. Okay, so and they take about a half hour each. Okay, and so if you will 20 minutes, 30 minutes, something like that to get through them. And if you want to do them all at once, you can do that. You just do 40 minutes, 45 minutes in the morning. You probably could knock it all out. Or if you want to do some in the morning and do some at lunch, or do some of it later in the evening, then that would be fine too.
Is this the kind of thing where you could like watch it and then do like a Zoom party with all your friends and talk about it like a retreat?
Yeah, you could.
You guys should do that.
You could do that. Celia is asking about the dates. Celia, I'm going to begin releasing all that stuff tomorrow morning. Okay, so it is 16th through 18th, which is of April, which is tomorrow. Okay, so that's the case. And if you're in internet land and you're finding this class several days later, hey, listen, just let me know and I can get that stuff to you. Okay. So all that is coming soon. Also, if you are a part of Cedar Lane, if you're a member at Cedar Lane, we sent out an email with a survey on it. And I just want to remind you, if you haven't taken the time to do that,
survey?
Then you need to respond to that email and fill out that survey. Okay, we would love for that, and I appreciate it. A lot of people already have. Ryland,
is it in the announcements?
A lot of people already have.
Did I not fill it out?
It's the one from. I don't know if it's in today's email or not. It was like called survey was the name of the email.
Surely I filled it out.
Yeah, I'm sure. Pretty sure you haven't. I've read them all. So, at any rate, that's something that I would love for you to take care of, and we will send that out again this weekend as well. But please do fill out that survey. It's just to help us know like what kind of needs people have right now and ways that we can kind of serve each other better. Okay. All right. That's all the prologue I've got. You got anything else?
Nope. Let's go.
Let's do it. John chapter 21. All right. Now, John 21 is a place that, we've talked about how John is very, very different than the other Gospels. So Matthew, Mark, Luke, they have a lot of similarities with each other. They have their own uniquenesses too that are perhaps underrated. But John's definitely telling his story in his own way.
Yeah.
Okay. In John chapter 21, we get a couple of stories that are very similar to stuff that we read about in the other Gospels, though. Okay? And it's done in such a way, I think this is one of those places that John is kind of, hey, wink, wink, you should be reading this story alongside those others. In other words, what you read here should be informed by what you've already read in the other accounts.
Well, like a lot of John's stories are that way.
Yeah. There's definitely places where it kind of comes off.
What John's already written, but what has, like, John was like the last.
Yeah, I think
written,
so. Yeah,
right?
probably so. Yeah.
So like he's saying, go read Mark, go read Luke, then come back and look at some of this.
Yeah, in other words, he's in conversation with them, right?
Yeah,
okay. And so it's kind of you need to read what's going on here, even though it's different. It has its own, it has its uniquenesses, but it's part of that early church conversation about what remembering the life of Jesus. And so, at any rate, all that to say that the story that we're going to look at here, Ryland, is going to be just the first 14 verses, okay? And it is the story of the miraculous catch of fish, sometimes known in the old language as the miraculous draught of fish. You ever heard it called that?
No.
Nah, you probably wouldn't. Most people would not.
What's a draught?
No, I guess catch is what I would say here.
Drought?
Maybe, I don't know.
It's the opposite of a lot of things.
Yeah. So this story has another title as well, though. Mm-hmm. Okay. It is sometimes called the 153 fish. The 153 fish. Or the catch of 100. Because in this story, John is very specific about the number of fish caught. You want to guess how many it was?
153?
Tell you what, let's just read.
So weird.
Let's read it and find out. Why don't you start and then take turns?
After these things, what things?
Well, the resurrection. The first, he's referring to the stories of the resurrection
about, right?
in chapter 20. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and like immediately preceding this, it says, Jesus did many other signs in the presence of his disciples after he was resurrected. Okay, so after these things, Jesus showed himself again to the disciples by the Sea of Tiberias. And he showed himself in this way. Gathered there together were Simon Peter, Thomas, called the twin.
The Didymus.
The doubter.
Stop calling him that.
Nathanael of Cana in Galilee, the sons of Zebedee, James and John?
Yeah.
2 others of his disciples. Simon Peter said to them, I am going fishing. They said to him, we will go with you. They went out and got into the boat, but that night they caught nothing.
Just after daybreak, Jesus stood on the beach, but the disciples did not know that it was Jesus. And Jesus said to them, children, you have no fish, have you? And they answered him, no. I don't know if that's the voice. What voice do you think they said that in? Not knowing it was him.
No. Maybe like that?
I guess, yeah, that's probably
good.
So he said to them, cast the net to the right side of the boat, and you will find some. And so they cast it, and now they were not able to haul it in because there were so many fish. The disciple whom Jesus loved said to Peter, it is the Lord. And when Simon Peter heard that it was the Lord, he put on some clothes, for he was naked.
What?
And jumped into... Yeah, no, we're not going to stop there. We'll come back to it. And jumped into the sea. But the other disciples came in the boat, dragging the net full of fish, for they were not far from the land, only about 100 yards off. That seems like a long way away from the land.
That's pretty 300 feet.
It's a good swim.
When they had gone ashore, they saw a charcoal fire there, with fish on it, and bread. Jesus said to them, bring some of the fish that you have just caught. So Simon Peter went aboard and hauled the net ashore full of large fish, 153 of them. And though there were so many, the net was not torn. Jesus said to them, come and have breakfast. Now none of the disciples dared to ask him, who are you? Because they knew it was the Lord. Jesus came and took the bread and gave it to them, and did the same with the fish. This was now the 3rd time that Jesus appeared to the disciples after he was raised from the dead.
Okay.
So weird.
The whole story?
Such a weird story.
What's so weird about it?
So many parts of it. So many. Everything. What? First of all, okay.
You want to talk
Let's
about...
see.
Yeah,
Let's talk about all the weird stuff in this story.
Okay.
They're at the sea. That's not so weird. Some of them are fishermen, right? So they went fishing. They caught nothing.
Overnight.
Yeah. All night long. And then some random guy, or so they think, comes and says, cast your net on the right side of the boat. I guess they're left.
Wait, let's hold on there. Let's hold on that. There's already... You've already skipped so many things that
Have I? That are weird?
Talk about it.
So many weird
Well, I guess
things,
not that they're weird. It's weird that they don't recognize Jesus.
Yeah.
All right, and that's something that happens in several of these resurrection stories. Is that they don't initially see who he is. Now, we saw that with Mary in chapter 20 in the resurrection story in the garden. So the resurrection, let's pull this a little closer. Yeah. Read that stuff a little
more
easier.
intimate.
Hey. So it is strange though that even at this point they've already encountered Jesus, right? And in the resurrection in the story where he comes and meets them in the closed rooms, but here again they don't recognize him, and it may be that he's because it's a distance. I mean, it's 100 yards away.
Yeah,
you know?
But I mean, it says it after they're eating with him. It's like, and no one asked him who he was.
Oh yeah, well there they know.
Knew that it was the Lord.
They know then, but at the beginning, there's this moment of mystery, and you can really see it. It's like I love the picture. This is a very visual story, right? Like they're fishing out in the middle of the dark, and man, Jesus must have been like super loud. He's like yelling out.
He was. I mean, listen, right? This guy was an orator.
Yeah, right.
He talked for a living,
and so I mean, yeah, very much so. And so they, but they hear him, and they tell him. The first thing is he asked them if they've caught anything, right? Yeah. Which strikes me as very playful, right? He's actually what he says is, "You don't have any fish, do you?"
Yeah, like he knew.
Yeah, children is what he calls them. Children, you don't have any fish.
That's kind of a diss.
I mean, it is. I think this is a playful way of addressing
throwing shade again,
which is similar to what he does with Mary in the garden, right? Like where he she thinks he's the garden, and he doesn't really know. You know, he kind of holds it a minute before he reveals that
he doesn't just come out and say, "Hey, it's me, Jesus."
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting part of the story is that whole saga of what it means to, you got to. We talked about this before, but like learning to recognize recognizing the risen Jesus is like discipline.
It's not easy.
Yeah, it's an art, and I kind of like that the story kind of gives us a tip towards that.
Yeah, and I think sometimes when something like that happens in your life, you don't recognize it till later.
Yeah.
Right? Like you're not always immediately recognizing that the Spirit or Jesus is working in your life.
It's interesting that this thing is not just a John. That's not just unique to John. Like, Luke ends with the story of the disciples meeting him on the road to Emmaus, right? Mm-hmm. And they they walk with Jesus for like a long time, and they don't realize who he is. It says they recognize him in the breaking, that he breaks bread with them, and then they realize it. Yeah. But I think all of these stories are meant to they're meant to kind of challenge us to learn to recognize Jesus.
Yeah.
Jesus says himself in Matthew, there's that judgment scene where he's like, I was naked and you didn't clothe me. I was hungry and you didn't feed me. I was in prison.
Yeah. So we've got some comments. We're gonna get the comments in a sec.
We'll come back to that in a second. Sorry.
Yeah, keep them up. We're gonna get to them.
Okay. So all that to say that that's just something that in all the gospel there's this kind of the resurrection is always filled with mystery.
Yeah.
Whether read Mark's very brief account, that's kind of filled with terror.
Was there a resurrection in Mark? I mean, there was.
Yeah. Well,
it was. I just remember it being like very. It was cut off.
Yeah. It's a very cut off story. And what actually happens in Mark, okay, is that you have the meeting of the angels, right? Mm-hmm. As they enter the tomb, they saw this is a couple of women. This is Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James, and Salome. It says, okay. When they had been saying to each other, who would roll the stone away for us from the entrance of the tomb, and when they looked up, they saw that the stone, which was very large, had been rolled back. As they entered the tomb, they saw a young man dressed in a white robe sitting on the right side, and they were alarmed. But he said to them, "Do not be alarmed, for you are looking for Jesus of Nazareth, who was crucified. He has been raised. He is not here. Look, there is the place they laid him. But go tell his disciples and Peter, he has gone ahead of you to Galilee, and there you'll see him, just as he told you." And so they went out and fled from the tomb, for terror and amazement had seized them, and they said nothing to anyone, for they were afraid. So it is a resurrection story, and it's an announcement of a resurrection from an angel, okay, who's there at the empty tomb. But there's not the same kind of encounters that you have in the other Gospels. Now there are these other smaller story, these kind of fragments of later manuscripts that are added to that, a little bit differently. But so all the Gospels, like the way the resurrection is portrayed in all the Gospels is just a little bit different, and it kind of maintains this sense of mystery, I think, that even in the resurrection. So
we'll take a pause and look at some of these comments.
Okay, yeah, sure.
So Brent Smith says, "I'm surprised that the net withstood the amount of force needed to pull up the fish and the strength of the fishermen." I'm sure, Stephen, you're going to get to the tensile strength of like the net fibers in the first century.
I know my engineer friends would love that.
Point.
I've got some people who would love to figure that out.
Yeah. Okay. What constitutes a large fish in the first century? Are we talking like tuna? Or are we talking like
no? Because this is in the Sea of Galilee. Okay, so you're talking about I would guess more like a big bass kind of thing. Okay. I mean, it's not the kind of fish there.
I can see like if you had a big net, maybe you could catch 153 of those. But that would be heavy.
Well, you remember this is a net. Probably this is a large throw net, and it is meant to be somewhat. Now we should say this about the 153 fish. There are lots, like the early people in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th centuries and in the medieval church a little bit, like they loved like speculating about what that number represented.
Well, I do know one thing.
Yes,
it's not divisible by 12.
Oh, you already asked.
No, I mean I just figured it out in my head.
Oh, you were of course, as one does.
As one does. It's not divisible by 12, so I have no idea what it means.
Yeah.
They don't each get 12 fish.
Yeah. There's
even with Jesus.
There's probably a controversy later. I don't know. There is Karen says a supernatural net. I mean, I do think that part of what's going on here is this. If the net Torah wouldn't be a provision of abundance, it'd be a problem. It'd be a disaster, right? But that's not what this miracle is.
We can't have the net tearing.
This miracle is God, Jesus, blessing them, ridiculously blessing them with this picture of abundance, right?
Yeah.
And we should say, the feeding of the 5,000 was an abundance of fish, right?
Fish and bread.
Fish and bread, yeah. And so in this story, I mean, it's kind of it's kind of like that, right? It's kind of a reminder of of an abundance of fish. And by the way, we should say too. Look, did you notice the catch at the end of this story?
It was the third time that Jesus appeared.
Okay, well, look at this. Look in verse. This is chapter 21, but look in verse 12. Jesus said to them, "Come and have breakfast." Now, none of the disciples dared to ask him, "Who are you?" because they knew it was the Lord. And Jesus came and he took the bread and gave it to them, and did the same with the fish. Okay,
that sounds like the Last Supper too.
Yeah. So he has this. It says when they came ashore, they saw that the charcoal fire. They saw a charcoal fire there with fish on it and bread. So Jesus has somehow, to say this is, it is Lord's Supper-ish. Yeah, it's very, very much this kind of moment again, where you know that they're eating with bread. Jesus eating with Jesus. They're eating this bread. They're eating fish and bread, and they can't help but think of the Lord. I mean, they can't help but think of the abundance of the feeding of the 5,000. I'm sure all these things they're kind of pointed together. Yeah.
Does this go along with the story with the fish that had the money in the mouth of the fish? Isn't that a story, a resurrection story too?
No, that's that's not a resurrection story.
Not a resurrection story.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm trying to remember where that one's found. Kind of thinking in Mark, but anyway, it's sort of Peter. Yeah,
not this.
No,
similar, but
that's
not
in
the
the
same
build.
thing.
It's in the rising action of like the rising comment.
Okay. Wait, before we get too far,
conflict.
Katie, who was it? Who asked that question? I don't know how to scroll up.
Yeah, here you go. Just two fingers. Yes, nice.
There we go. Amy said, "What version?" Because her NIV says friends. I think when Jesus says children.
Yeah,
and we made a big deal about friends.
Yeah, we did. I'd have to look this up, and I will look it up. I'll look it up and get back to you here in a minute. But in fact, I'll look it up right now.
Okay,
we'll just figure it out. But here, let me see real quick. So all that is going on in the story, Rylan. Let's see if there's a place I can very quickly look this up.
Yeah, I got my phone.
Well, I'm just. This may prove more complicated to do this immediately. Here we go.
Oh, you have like a special program.
Oh, I do have a special program. Yeah, we can look at this up. And I suspect that what's going on there is it's one of those places where the text is trying to be friendly to different ways of handling gender stuff. Okay. All right. So let's see. What verse is that we were looking at?
Go up right here. Friends. That.
Yeah. Okay. So this the NIV says friends here. Okay, and he does say he does say like the diminutive little children. Yeah. That's what it's.
So is that what a rabbi would call his disciples?
I'm sure there were places
Niños?
where that was had. Yeah. Come here, little niños. Come here, kids. Yeah, kids. I think would be a good diminutive kind of translation for that. So, anyways, that's part of what's going on there. Okay.
All right.
I don't know exactly why the NIV chooses to. I don't know how to make
say
that
friends?
large more. Yeah, I don't know why they choose to use that language instead.
Okay. Celia wants to know who are the other two disciples that weren't named. She thinks one of them might be John because he does that, but also remember it could be Lazarus.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know.
Yeah, we don't really know. John's actually is named here because it's the sons of Zebedee are named.
Okay,
so
and that's this John.
So it's used.
There's more than one. Is there more than one John?
No. This is this John.
John that wrote this is John, the son of Zebedee. So it's not him. It's two other.
Two other disciples and
that wanted to be anonymous.
Yeah, I don't know why it doesn't tell us who they are. I'm not sure what the purpose of that is. It seems just. There's times where John seems very specific about details. A lot of people would point to that. I'm kind of in the camp of that's just the sort of thing an eyewitness does. Is they give random information. Like there were 153 fish, or there's one time where he's and he was telling them to sit down, and the grass was really green in that place. Yeah. The feeding of the 5,000 stories like that, and it just seems to be one of those little details. Yeah,
that they like to throw in there.
Yeah.
It's not like some Bible conspiracy with the number and you can figure out the end of days or anything.
I'm pretty
Sorry,
skeptical
guys.
about that. So, okay, all right. So we get the things that are in the comments as well.
Also a good comment. Jesus gives a word picture of being fishers of men.
Okay.
So
yeah. Okay. So let's talk about that a little bit. Okay, because that is something else that I wanted to address. Thank you, Karen, for the nice transition there. It's one of those places where there we are, where Jesus where John's story kind of looks at reminds us about something that happened in one of the other Gospels. Okay, so the other time that this story shows up is in Luke chapter 5. Okay, and it's actually very it's in chapter 5 of Luke, so it's pretty early in the story, right? It's pretty early in the.
How could this story happen in Luke 5?
I think it's a different story. I think this happened 2 times.
Okay.
Okay, you see what I'm saying? Like I think, and I think that's part of that's exactly what I want to talk about. Okay. Now we've run into stuff like this before. Like it's kind of the opposite of the temple cleansing story, which in all the other 3 Gospels happens at the end of this, of the Gospel, and in John it happens very early in chapter 2.
But the writers of the Gospels aren't necessarily putting everything in chronological order.
Yeah,
they're putting it in like a theological order, right? Yeah. So they're just saying, here's some stories of stuff that people remembered. They don't have to be in a specific order.
But what I would suggest for this particular, I think that's true for the temple story, for instance. Okay, I think
this one can't be like that.
I don't think the story's like that because the point is a little bit different. Yeah. Okay, and I think what's happening. This is what I meant at the very beginning when we started talking about the story, and that John seems to be like saying, "Hey, you remember a story like this, okay?" And in fact, I think that's part of what triggers the recognition of it being Jesus. Mm-hmm. I think Peter is like, wait a minute.
This already happened.
There's a guy on the shore telling me to cast on the other side. All of a sudden, there's a bunch of fish. It's Jesus. And I think that's why he's like throwing some clothes on. I was about to say taking his clothes off. He's actually throwing clothes on.
Yeah. What's that about?
Fishing naked?
I've heard of skinny dipping, but not skinny fishing.
I'm not suggesting that you try that. I'm just not going to go there.
I'm not going to.
Yeah. All right.
All right, we got that.
I appreciate you bringing that back up. Yep. Thanks. Okay, so at any rate, the story, let's talk about some of the differences between these 2 stories. Okay. Right. So in the story in Luke, and this is actually, if you see a painting, there's a very clear way that you can tell the difference between the story in John and the story in Luke. Okay. You want to read this? Let's read the story.
Yeah, let's read it.
Okay, go ahead.
It's just
this right here. Okay.
Once while Jesus was standing beside the lake of...
Luke 5.
Oh, yeah. Luke 5, verse 1. Once, while Jesus was standing beside the lake of Gennesaret, and the crowd was pressing in on him to hear the word of God, he saw 2 boats there at the shore of the lake. The fishermen had gone out of them and were washing their nets. He got into one of the boats, the one belonging to Simon, and asked him to put out a little way from the shore. Then he sat down and taught the crowds from the boat. Obviously, he was loud. He was loud.
I didn't think about that as being a common thing of the story, but yeah, you're right.
When he had finished speaking, he said to Simon, "Put out into the deep water and let down your nets for a catch." Simon answered, "Master, we've worked all night long, but have caught nothing. Yet if you say so, I will let down the nets." When they had done this, they caught so many fish that their nets were beginning to break. So they signaled their partners in the other boat to come and help them. And they came and filled both boats, so that they began to sink. But when Simon Peter saw it, he fell down at Jesus' knees, saying, "Go away from me, Lord, for I am a sinful man." For he and all who were with him were amazed at the catch of fish that they had taken. And so also were James and John, son of Zebedee, who were partners with Simon. Then Jesus said to Simon, "Do not be afraid. From now on, you will be catching people."
Or the other translations are going to say, "You are fishers of men." That's the thing that that Karen was pointing to a second ago, right?
And then when they brought their boats to shore, they left everything and followed him.
Yeah. Okay. That is. All right. So there are so many connections between these 2 stories, not just, in thematic stuff that are different, but like connected. Okay. And I started to say the biggest difference, one of the first differences that you notice and that you can notice visually if you see a painting, you like go see a Renaissance master who's painted, this boat with disciples pulling a fish.
There's examples of Renaissance masters that have painted the 2 different scenes.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know if anybody's done both, but you can always tell which one it is. Okay.
Yeah.
And the difference is that if it's the Luke version, Jesus is on the boat.
Ah. Okay. I thought maybe there would be 2 boats.
Oh well, I think there often is another boat, but like but I think that's the like signal thing is
if
is
Jesus
he's in the boat
is
or
on
not.
that.
Yeah. Okay. Or he's on the shore. So in this story, okay, so the Luke's story, Jesus is there with Peter, and it actually begins with him preaching. It ends with him telling Peter to come and to follow him. Mm-hmm. Okay. The story in John is going to follow that way. We're going to talk about that more on Sunday. Okay. We're going to get to that bit of the story, but that connection of like him witnessing this miracle and then becoming a disciple. That's all tied together in these two stories. Okay. Also, you notice in this story that there's this moment where Peter, in the Luke version, Peter says, Peter is confronted with his own sinfulness, right? He says, when he realizes who Jesus is, that Jesus is like this miraculous person that has this divine power, then his response to that is to fall at Jesus' feet and say, I need you to get out of here. I'm just a regular old sinful dude. You don't need to have anything to do with me, right? The story that comes in the resurrection, the John's version of it, Peter also has this recognition of his own sinfulness, right? He has this moment where he, again, we're going to talk about on Sunday, that makes him think of the denials that have happened, betrayals that have happened on the road to the cross, or at the cross. And so these stories are like really closely tied together, with some pretty significant differences too. Now we said earlier that the nets don't break or anything like that in the second one.
In this one they
do. It says they begin to break. Yeah, and so that's why they bring.
So probably more than 153.
I guess so.
At least 154 large fish.
At least 154 fish. In fact, it says that they bring this other boat. The other boat comes to help them, and that there's so many fish that both boats begin to sink. Yeah, which is.
That's a lot of fish.
Meant to, just demonstrate this incredible haul of fish. Okay, so I just wanted to kind of hold those two stories in contrast a little bit, because I think there's some really interesting dialogue going on in between the two things. Let's come to this last thing. You notice how at the beginning we talked about the recognition of who Jesus is, but then you mentioned also when they come and they're at the campfire. I love this picture of like campfire Jesus too. Kind of imagine it's like s'mores time, except for it's fish
and bread.
Yeah,
I bet that'd be good. Just hanging out with Jesus, eating fish and bread on campfire.
It sounds awesome. Yeah, but there's this thing that happens here, right? And it says that this is John 21 verse 12. It says, "Now none of the disciples dared to ask him, 'Who are you?' because they knew it was the Lord." That's significant, right?
It is. It's weird to say, though, because it kind of implies that he didn't look like himself, maybe? Because otherwise you would just say this every time you ended a story, because they're always with him and they know it's him. So it just makes it kind of mysterious for me.
It seems to be underlying the kind of this reality of what was happening here. You notice how at least at this point of the story, there's not very much dialogue between Jesus and the disciples either. He says, "Come have breakfast," and that's kind of it, right? Mm-hmm. After the first part, when they're at sea, when they come, he just says, "Bring some of the fish that you've caught, and let's have some breakfast."
Yeah, he doesn't give them like the Great Commission here, or he doesn't like teach them a lesson, or
no, not here. I mean, no, there's going to be this following on part,
but like you said, it's just like him hooking them up with a bunch of fish.
Yeah, we talked in the sermon on this last Sunday about the importance of presence, right? And to me, that's what's at work in this story, right? It's Jesus very simply coming to be present, sharing this meal, sharing this moment with his disciples.
I think it's nice. I think Jesus thought, you know what? Instead of just coming and being like, "Hey, I got some food over here. Y'all come and join me, and it's me, Jesus." He's like, I'm going to play around with them a little bit and give them a bunch of fish. They're obviously disappointed. They've been fishing all night. I'm going to give them like this great bountiful catch and then hang out with them for a while.
Yeah, and that's right. It's almost like it's a disruptive moment, but it's almost like a positive disruption, right? It's like a glorious disruption of what's happening. And I guess this kind of brings me to the last thing that I wanted to kind of point out. But if you have anything else, it's fine too. But I've always thought that the first part of this story is, man, it's really fascinating. That it says that they're at the Sea of Tiberias. Gathered there together were Simon. This gives the list of the people, the ones that are there. And then it just says this. This is like so abrupt in verse 3. It says, Simon Peter said to the other disciples, "I'm going fishing." And they said to him, "We'll go with you."
There's 7 of them. Sorry, I just had to count.
No, that's fine.
I don't know if that's important or not.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, that's more symbolic. That's a more symbolic number
It
than
might be.
153 fish. Yeah.
I don't know if 153 is divisible by 6. You know what? Let's keep going.
I'm sure you'll tell me in a
the middle of an
second.
important
Tell me when you
point.
finish your calculations over here. When
It's not.
Okay, thanks. I knew it wouldn't take long.
Almost.
It's very close. Yeah.
Yeah, like one more.
What did you count for Jesus?
One more fish.
Jesus eating some too.
It's 8. Oh,
Yeah,
man,
yeah,
I'm not.
back to
No,
the
it's
drawing
not.
board. It's definitely not the
Can't
even
be
number,
divisible by
yeah,
8.
yeah.
Yeah.
So what was I talking about? Okay, yeah. I'm sorry, everybody.
Sorry.
I think it's striking that this moment after the resurrection, after they've had the encounter, they're sent. Right?
Yeah.
He does send them in chapter 20. Right?
Mhm.
As the Father sent me, so I'm sending
Mhm.
you. Right? Do you notice in this story, it's like they go back to the beginning of their lives, right?
Yeah.
Or they go back to like pre-Jesus, right? Like, so I kind of get the sense that like they're all just sitting around and like, what do we do? And so Peter kind of reverts back to the only thing he really knew to do, right? He's like, well, can't follow Jesus around right now, so I guess the only thing to do is to go fishing, you know. And I love that. You know, I love.
Yeah.
Now it may be that this appearance is like Jesus disrupting that. Like, oh no, you're not going to go back to your same disruptive. Your same old life, and that Jesus is disrupting that, returning back, or it may be just a sense of Peter's now taking all these experiences with Jesus and he's returning back to it. I kind of think it's more the former, right? Like I think Peter is like, I don't know what to do. And then he's kind of reverting back to his old, and then Jesus is kind of disrupting that.
So they must have traveled like back home.
Yeah.
If he's got a boat and
that's right.
nets, he's like back
that's
where he's from.
And that's okay. That's something that's that's going to
Do they
happen.
say that?
Yeah,
Do
yeah,
they
yeah.
say that?
I don't know if it says it here in John's version. It says it. It does say it in the other.
Because they're not from Jerusalem, right?
Well, like in the story that we read in Mark, it says, "Tell them to meet me in Galilee."
Yeah.
So. Yeah, that's right. They're not from Jerusalem, so they've returned. They returned back into the.
So they're just going, like you
north,
said, they're just kind of trying to figure out what to do next. They're back with their folks,
and it's kind of a regression,
families.
right? It's kind of a returning back to something, and that may be why we have this partial list of disciples here, right? Is that like these are the ones that have knew how to fish, or something like that. James.
Well, those are
definitely
his
James
partners,
and John.
right? Yeah,
are,
James and John were his fishing partners, fishing buddies.
But I don't know. It's just one of those things that like it puts them. It's like Peter is returning to the familiar, and then everything has to be flipped upside down again. And that just strikes me as a really human part of the story. The disciples, they've been sent, they've received the Holy Spirit. And all you can think to do is go fishing. People love going fishing.
Oh, they have the Holy Spirit?
But yeah, it happened in 20.
But the Pentecost hasn't happened.
No, it's a different. Yeah, it's kind of a different thing.
This is like a pre-Pentecost.
Yeah, he gives them like this experience of the Holy Spirit. Yeah. But he's definitely sending them. He sends them on mission.
Yeah,
you're right. The other Gospels talk about this waiting space. Luke is like there's a space between the resurrection of Pentecost and the receiving of the Spirit, and then the sending out from Jerusalem and Judea, all that kind of stuff. But John's not as technical about all that. He's not concerned about like that process. What he is concerned about is that the disciples who have been sent on Peter, the disciples who have been sent on mission, that they don't just go back to life like normal. Yeah. I really think that's what's going on. The more I think about this story, I think that's what's part of what's happening. And I think that will make sense even more so when we get back in and read the second half of the chapter. And if you want to read ahead, read through the rest of this chapter, 15 and following, the last part of the Gospel of John. We're going to talk about that on Sunday. That's going to be part of our sermon and conversation on Sunday as well. And if you're here and you haven't joined us yet, on Sunday mornings we have our live stream starts at 9 o'clock. Or 8:55. 8:55. We start this week. We started at 8:57, and I know that was hard.
It caused some disruption.
Yeah, it did.
Of its own.
All of a sudden, like 8:56, everybody's like, "Where are you guys at?"
Yeah,
we still starts at 9. Just give us a second.
Yeah. Listen, we're not professionals.
Well, I am not at this.
Not at this. You're a professional at speaking and coming up with these lessons, and that's great. We're not like technical professionals, and sometimes it just takes a little bit longer for us to set things up.
There you go. That's right.
Okay, that's all I'm trying to say. You are a professional.
It's really you're very professional, Rylan. It's just that this is not a professional.
We're both
studio.
professionals,
Yeah.
just not at this thing.
We're working on it.
Anyway,
Okay,
I shouldn't make apologies. What am I
yeah, you do.
doing?
Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that.
We're not sorry.
No, that's not what I meant. Any rate, join us on Sunday morning at 8:55 or 9 o'clock,
a.m.
and we would love for you to be a part of our worship. And if you have something that you are in need of prayer for or something like that, we would love for you to share that. Send us a message. We'd love to pray for you and love to interact with you more. If you want to, if you have some more questions about this story, I do. You know, I have lots of questions about this story. But if you want to ask or about something else regarding your faith or something that's going on in your life with the Spirit, then I'd love to have those conversations with you. And you can send us a message and we'll get back to you. Okay. We miss being with you all physically. We're glad that we get to have this space, and we'll catch you on Sunday. Okay.
Thanks for joining us.
If you want to be a part of that digital online retreat, send me a message for that too. Karen, I'll get you in. All right.
Thanks.